Welcome the new crime lord of Tatooine. The newest addition to the Star Wars universe, the Book of Boba Fett, continues the story that started in The Mandalorian, and brings the legendary bounty hunter back to the forefront of the franchise. After having spent over 40 years as a background character whose story was relegated to novels and comics, this show finally gives Boba his day in the limelight. One thing we find interesting about the series is its cast of characters. In the show, the majority of characters are crime lords, mercenaries, and bounty hunters. In almost any other Star Wars project, these characters would immediately be labeled as villains. This show, on the other hand, manages to give them a much more heroic edge. Which begs the question, on these desolate dunes, which characters are worthy to wield the Darksaber, and which should be fed to the rancor? I'm Kyle with Wicked Binge, and this is the Book of Boba Fett characters, good to evil. For this list, we'll begin by looking at the most pure characters and working our way down to the baddest of the bad. These characters are the good. Winning the gold medal of good is none other than Grogu himself. Let's be honest, is there anyone else who's more worthy of the spot? Grogu is a baby after all. As a result, he has an innocence to him that pretty much every other character on this list lacks. Apart from being an innocent soul, he also saved the day on a number of occasions. He's saved the Mandalorian many times in his own series, and he was also of big help during the battle that ended this series. Grogu manages to destroy one of the droid walkers that terrorizes Boba's forces, and he even tames the Rancor during its city rampage. Without Grogu, it's likely there wouldn't even be a Mos Espa anymore. If there is one thing that we could knock Grogu for, it's that he does tend to think with his stomach. Just look at when he tried to eat a frog during his training. While it is a character flaw, he is only a baby. A 50-year-old baby, but a baby nonetheless. Grogu might not look like much, but this little one will most definitely have your back through thick and thin. In second place, we're giving the Silver Medal of Good to the legendary rebellion hero, Luke Skywalker. While he was the main character of the original trilogy, Luke is more akin to a secondary character in this series. Although his role in the story has changed, this Luke still embraces a similar type of heroism as his film counterpart. In his first appearance in The Mandalorian, Luke saved Din Djarin and his allies from the nearly invincible Dark Troopers. Here, we see him in more of a mentor role. Luke is a patient teacher, but at times, his methods do seem a little strange. Is it really wise to have a droid shoot laser blasts at a child? Though we question this choice, Luke still has the best of intentions in mind.
Get back up. Always get back up.
He wants to see the Jedi Order survive and thrive, and he is more than ready to pass on his knowledge to students. However, he doesn't quite fall into the old Jedi ways of taking children and indoctrinating them into the Order. When Grogu makes it clear that he wants to be reunited with his father figure, Luke grants him his request. Maybe leaving him alone in the cockpit of an X-Wing wasn't the safest decision. But who are we to judge? Besides, what could possibly go wrong when R2 is your co-pilot? Though he doesn't have the biggest role in this saga, the son of Skywalker is more than deserving of the second spot on our list. Earning the Bronze Medal of Good is the handy mechanic Peli Moto. This choice might come as a shock to some, as she doesn't have the biggest role in the series, nor is she particularly courageous. We agree on both counts, but that doesn't stop Peli from being one of the more level-headed characters in the series. In a world full of space wizards and armored assassins, she feels the most like an everyday person. She's just an average mechanic who's never even been to another planet before. Moto also reacts to Grogu with the same level of enthusiasm most of the audience has when he appears.
Well, look who it is!
So is it really a stretch to call her the most relatable? She's also the only one to treat Grogu like an actual baby. No offense to Mando, but he isn't the most sensible father figure. Peli can also be helpful when the situation calls for it. She gets the Mandalorian a new ship and helps him put it together. She even gives the ship a few nifty upgrades, making for a ship that's way faster than the Razor Crest ever was. Overall, while Peli doesn't participate in heroics in the same way a Luke Skywalker or Grogu does, she's still one of the kindest and most helpful characters in the series. That would be good for a character in any show, but it's especially good for someone who's stuck in a hive of scum and villainy. Our third Force user on the list, Ahsoka Tano, is up next. The former Padawan of Anakin Skywalker, Ahsoka seems to be on her own agenda in this series. While Luke is preoccupied with building a new Jedi Order, Ahsoka focuses more on locating the elusive Grand Admiral Thrawn. She hasn't had the amount of noble moments that Luke has, but that doesn't mean she is totally without them. For instance, she and the Mandalorian worked together to liberate a city when the pair first met. However, Ahsoka does seem to be a bit more apprehensive than prior incarnations of the character. She refuses to train Grogu, worrying that his attachment to Din Djarin will only lead to catastrophe. When the Mandalorian arrives at Luke's temple to see him, Ahsoka warns him that this could only serve to make things worse.
If he sees you, it will only make things more difficult for him.
It seems like a strange choice for the character to make, considering Ahsoka has absolutely had attachments in the past. But she does have her reasons. We all remember what happened to her master. Although she essentially acts as the barrier between Djarin and Grogu's reunion, she allows him to make his own choice. She isn't at all malicious in her motives. As a believer in the Force, she thinks beings should trust in their instincts and feelings, something she asserts to Luke later in the episode. While she may not always be on the same page as others, Ahsoka still remains one of the most heroic characters in the series. Up next is the wielder of the Darksaber, the Mandalorian himself, Din Djarin. While he's not the main character of this series, it is undeniable that he is the star of the story these series are telling. The Mandalorian is definitely not your conventional hero, but that is one of the big reasons he is such a compelling protagonist. We've seen characters like Luke Skywalker take down bad guys, but would you ever see him use a flamethrower on a stormtrooper? Din Djarin can be absolutely ruthless when he needs to be, but he still has a soft side. He cares deeply for Grogu, and takes him under his wing in a manner similar to how the Mandalorians took him in. He's also done plenty of good for the galaxy, even as a bounty hunter. He's saved villages from bandits, liberated cities, and defeated Moff Gideon in a one-on-one duel. By the time we meet him in the Book of Boba Fett, the Mandalorian seems to be transforming into even more of a hero. His new starfighter hints that he will soon shed his bounty hunting career, and his acquiring of the Darksaber gives him a whole new responsibility, further showing his development when he is needed to help Fett's forces. He does the job free of charge. In conclusion, Din Djarin is a great hero, and we can only guess he'll become a greater hero as the story of the Mandalorian continues to unfold. We do have one bit of critique for Mr. Djarin, however. Would it kill him to drop Grogu off at a daycare for once? I mean, come on. Our last character was a Mandalorian, but this character merely wore their armor. We're talking about Cobb Vanth. Vanth is the Marshal of Freetown, a place he cares deeply about. When the town was conquered by a criminal syndicate, Vanth acquired a set of armor that once belonged to Boba Fett, and used it to liberate the town. Cobb is willing to do whatever it takes to keep the town and its people safe. For instance, take the time he teamed up with Din Djarin, and a tribe of Tuskens to fend off a Krayt dragon. He had no problem giving up the armor, so long as Djarin would help them succeed. When the bounty hunter Cad Bane arrives in town, Vanth tries to make sure nobody else is present but the two of them, in an effort to avoid any bloodshed. Though a shot to the shoulder from Bane keeps Vanth out of the finale, the act galvanizes the people of Freetown to help Boba's army. It seems Cobb's dedication to keeping people safe has even extended to the citizens he protects. Though Vanth is valiant, we can't really put him any higher than this spot. Sure, he's defended Freetown on several occasions, but is that really on the same level of heroism as what Luke or Din Djarin have done? Still, if we lived somewhere this Marshal was protecting, we would feel safe. We've finally reached the star of the show, Boba Fett himself. Like we said earlier, there are characters on this list who are heroes, but in any other Star Wars media, they would probably be considered villains. There is no better example of this than our protagonist. This is a character who has done some pretty dastardly things in previous stories. He's battled Jedi, worked for the Empire, and even brushed shoulders with the Sith. Yet here, Boba comes off as a lot more noble. As he says in the series, while Jabba ruled Tatooine with fear, Boba Fett wants to rule with respect. It becomes clear early on that his time with the Tuskens, who he bonded with after escaping the Sarlacc pit, has molded Boba into a better person. During his time with the Tuskens, he helped them take out a train that killed many of their people. After their tribe is destroyed, Boba goes alone, but he doesn't forget all that he's learned. He saves Fennec Shand from death, and he also allies with Din Djarin when Grogu is captured. The ending of the finale episode, which sees Boba enjoying a nice laugh with his crew, shows how far he has come as a character. Gone is the quiet loner who had no family to call his own. In his place is an honorable ruler who wants what is best for his people, who have essentially become his new family. Although his past as a cold-blooded killer does prevent him from being ranked any higher on our list, this remains one Mandalorian you'd be better off not crossing. Ending the good area are the mods. These cyborgs are members of a gang that frequents Mos Espa. When we first meet them in the series, they have somewhat fallen upon hard times. The mods cannot find work, which has made them poor. The group is so poor they even resort to stealing water, as its price is too high to afford. Their fortune is reversed when Boba Fett arrives. He offers them the chance to work for him, which the group accepts. The mods end up becoming very useful to Boba's growing criminal family. More than anyone else, these characters act as Fett's enforcers. They patrol the streets and help out at every opportunity. They save Boba from the clutches of Black Krrsantan, they manage to capture the mayor's major domo, and they even fight in the battle that closes the last episode. They also act as Boba's spies. When the mayor goes into hiding, the mods are the ones who survey the city in an effort to track him down. As you can see, the mods are extremely helpful in Boba's campaign to conquer Mos Espa. There are only two reasons we don't rank them any higher. For starters, they don't have quite the amount of heroic moments as their predecessors do. Secondly, we really don't know that much about them. We only even get names for two of them, that being Drash and Scad. Despite that, these Vespa-riding gangsters have more than proven themselves as great allies to Boba Fett, and they even have the potential to become great heroes. And that's it for the good tier. Now we move into the characters who aren't evil, but they aren't exactly good either. This is the gray area. Starting out this section is the infamous Fennec Shand. Now, she does have a lot of the makings of a more heroic character. Much like Boba, she helped the Mandalorian rescue Grogu. She also dedicated her service to Fett, who saved her life after discovering her body. In the finale, she even eliminates the leaders of every opposing syndicate all by her lonesome. However, as we soon learn in the series, her ideology is not quite the same as Fett's. Whereas Boba Fett wants to rule with honor, she believes fear is a safer bet. She's also a lot more aggressive than Boba is. Whenever anyone crosses Boba, Fennec immediately believes they should kill them.
I'm the crime lord, he's supposed to pay me.
Shall I kill him?
It gets to the point where Fett even has to tell her to keep people alive, just to make sure she won't kill anybody. It's very clear that, if she were the only one trying to become a crime lord, things would be a lot different. Compared to either Din Djarin or Boba, Fennec Shand is a lot closer to the cold and merciless bounty hunters we tend to encounter in Star Wars stories. That's enough to place her in the gray area, but her heroic moments do keep her from descending any lower. Whether you think she's good or bad, one thing's for sure. This is one assassin you don't want to stand in the way of. Up next is the civilized Garsa Whip. A secondary character in the show, Garsa is the owner of a cantina called the Sanctuary. If there was ever a character who we'd label as true neutral, she's it. Garsa doesn't align herself with any of the various criminal syndicates that appear in the show. She welcomes everyone in her cantina, be they loyal to the Fett family or to the Pike Syndicate. Of course, her welcoming of the latter does result in her demise, but it's the thought that counts. The only character you could say she shows loyalty to is Boba Fett, but even that occurs as a result of his promise to keep her cantina successful. More than anything else, the cantina is the crown jewel of Garsa's eye. She tries to keep the cantina peaceful and civil, a stark contrast from most other cantinas we see in the franchise. One example of her commitment to a safe cantina is when she attempts to talk down Black Krrsantan during his fight. Her words do little to deter Krrsantan, but it shows that she is serious about wanting a well-mannered cantina. Garsa might not be the most loyal of characters in the series, but she does know how to run a cultured business. Next up is a Wookiee that could make the strongest of Jedi a little scared, Black Krrsantan. Krrsantan, also known as Santo, is the muscle of Fett's family. He's as tough a fighter as there is, and he can take several blaster hits before being knocked down. Santo ultimately ends up in the gray area because he's had his good moments, but he's also had his bad ones. It's important to remember that Krrsantan starts out as a henchman to the Hutt Twins. The one assignment they gave him was to kill Boba, which he very likely would have done if it wasn't for Boba's crew coming in to help him. As another show of Krrsantan's strength, even all these characters together could barely fend him off. If it wasn't for Fennec unlocking the trapdoor that led to the pit, he just might have massacred all of them. After this, Santos starts to become more of an ally to Boba Fett. He helps out most notably during the battle in Mos Espa, but his change in allegiance doesn't automatically turn him into a good egg. Take a look at his visit to the Sanctuary. After encountering several Trandoshans, he picks a fight with one, and goes as far as to rip one of his arms off. As a whole, Santo ends up feeling like quite the wild card in the show's cast. You never know just what he's going to do. However, if you were to ever play a game against him, take some advice from a certain protocol droid, and let this Wookiee win. Finishing off the gray area, we actually have the Bronze Medal of Evil recipients, the Hutt Twins. Yeah, we're not out of the gray area yet, but we're already handing out evil medals. If that doesn't show you how unique this show's cast is compared to other stories set in the franchise, we don't know what will. Much like most other Hutts in the Star Wars universe, these two are crime lords who have quite the grip in the galaxy's criminal underworld. They employ some highly skilled servants, most notably Black Krrsantan. They are also always interested in expanding their empire. This leads them into conflict with Boba Fett, as they believe Jabba's territory is theirs for the taking.
All that is his belongs to me now.
They soon take action against Boba Fett, ordering Krrsantan to assassinate him. As you can see, these Hutts are every bit as vile as the other Hutts in the franchise are. However, they do have a bit of a conscience, which ultimately keeps them from ending up any lower on our list. When they learn the territory was promised to the Pikes, they draw out from Tatooine. The last thing they want to do is fight a war. They even apologize to Fett for trying to kill him, and give him a rancor as a tribute. Since they essentially withdraw from the story after this point, we can't really label them as villains, even though they do some heinous things. Besides, without them, Boba wouldn't have had Santo nor the rancor on his side, and we think things ended up working out pretty well. And that's a wrap for the gray area. It's now time to talk about the baddest of the bad. These characters are the evil. Getting the Silver Medal of Evil is Mos Espa's mayor, Mok Shaiz. Shaiz is an Ithorian who is behind most of the schemes intended to disrupt Boba Fett's rule. It is he who orders the Night Wind assassins to kill Fett. And it's also Shaiz who promised Fett's territory to the Pikes, the catalyst for the main conflict of the show. Mok Shaiz is quite the greedy individual. The only reason he gave Tatooine to the Pikes is because they had bribed him. He's also not too happy when Boba Fett chooses not to pay his tribute. Mok Shaiz's war with the Fett Empire ends up having disastrous consequences for the city of Mos Espa. The conflict leaves Sanctuary destroyed, and much of the town is reduced to rubble. Though Shaiz is dangerous and possesses a lot of power, he is held back because, to put it bluntly, he is a coward. When Boba and his muscles start to uncover what is going on, Shaiz quickly goes into hiding. He spends much of the series' runtime hiding behind criminals and assassins, and being purely motivated by financial gain. Though he may be the instigator for the show's main conflict, we still believe there is one more who outdoes him in the evil department. The winner of the Gold Medal of Evil is Cad Bane. Cad Bane is one of the baddest bounty hunters to ever grace the galaxy far, far away. He's followed the orders of Sith Lords, battled Jedi, and everything in between. When he first appears in the series, he might be a lot older, but he's still the ruthless mercenary we've always known him as. He deals a fatal blow to Cobb Vanth, and quickly goes after Boba Fett. He taunts Fett about the death of his Tusken tribe, and suggests that Boba hasn't grown at all.
Consider this my final lesson.
He feels like the perfect foil to Boba Fett. Both of these characters have devoted almost their entire lives to bounty hunting, but while Boba Fett found a new purpose in life, Bane stuck with being a bounty hunter until the very end. He never developed or changed as a person, a choice that would ultimately lead to his death at the hands of Fett. Bane sees Boba's compassion as a weakness, an attribute that only makes Cad look more dangerous. Bane in general is probably one of the more dangerous characters in the show. His lack of morality means he is willing to do anything, so long as the price is right. Bane is the perfect villain for someone like Boba Fett. He's skilled, intimidating, and heartless, making him the most sensible choice for the most evil character of the series. But before we call it a day, let's award some Sinner medals. The Wrath medal goes to Black Krrsantan. His willingness to pick a fight with anyone makes him the natural fit for this medal. Second up is the Greed medal, which we have to give to Mok Shaiz. After all, if it wasn't for his greed, the main plot of the series wouldn't have happened. Grogu gets the Gluttony medal because he might be all cute and innocent, but he sure does love to chow down. Finally, we think the Hutt Twins definitely deserve the Sloth medal. They just wouldn't be Hutts if they didn't get this one. But let us know in the comments section if you agree with our ranking, and tell us what we should cover next. Remember to hit that notification bell and binge our Good to Evil playlist, where we break down the morality of the characters in your favorite cartoons, shows, and movies. But most importantly, stay wicked.